So I'm pretty pleased with how things are going in our game right now. And I really want to get in and start adding more features like enemies with different behaviors and more items and more block types, maybe make the board bigger, eventually get to having it scroll sideways. But I'm hesitant to do so right now because when I look at our code, I think it's getting a little bit messy and disorganized and repetitive. So one of the things that's starting to concern me is that every time so far that I've made a new class, I've basically just taken my platform class and copied and pasted it and used it as a starting point. And so you can see like these lines right here where you set the image and the rectangle and position the item. All of our sprites begin with basically that same code. The gem we did slightly different, but every other sprite we've made is exactly the same. I also have put the apply gravity inside my enemy, and I've got the exact same code inside my hero. Um, and so I've been doing that a lot. Just it's like I get an idea, and I have something. I get an idea, and I think of, I've done something similar to that already. Let me copy and paste it and modify it. But now we're getting a little bit of a mess. So what I want to do today is show you how we can eliminate a lot of the repetitive code, and that way going forward it's going to be a lot easier to add new features to our game. And I could have done it that way from the beginning, but I think it's important to see how we don't necessarily know where the repetition is going to happen until we have some of it. And it's good to see the process of cleaning up a mess, because no matter how experienced you are, this is always going to happen to you. So let me go ahead and get out of the way. And so let's look at this platform class right now. And in the platform class, you can see that we have this pygame.sprite.sprite in the class declaration. And what we did here is something called extending a class. And so if we were to go explore the Pygame source code, we would find that there is a sprite class in there, which has a bunch of code in it, like code for collision detection and other useful things, and resizing and rotating and stuff like that. And, we don't want to have to re-implement all of that. Okay, it's got drawing code in there. We don't want to re-implement all of that in our class. So when we put the reference to the sprite class in here, what we in effect did is we made a platform object that has all of the attributes and functionality of a sprite, plus it has an image and a rectangle and a rectangle. So anything extra that we added. In our hero, we did the same thing. My hero has everything that a sprite has, plus speed and the ability to move left, right, jump, and gravity, and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to take advantage of that and see if we can extend our own classes to reuse some code. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this platform class again. And I'm going to make a new class called an entity. And this is going to be my root class, and everything else that I make, every other class in my game, is going to borrow from the entity class. So when I make an entity, I'm going to leave this the same. It's going to have an X and a Y and an image, and the super is the call to make it, to initialize anything that's in the sprite class, and then this is our custom stuff. And so it looks like I've added some duplicate code, but let's look at what we can do with the platform now. So in my platform, rather than extend the sprite, I'm going to extend entity. And so now the platform got all of this code, this initializer right here. And so we don't need to include this here anymore. And this super call was designed to go up to the sprite class, which takes no arguments. But now that we're extending an entity, we need to pass in an X and a Y and an image argument. So we're going to go right here and pass that up. And you can see how my platform doesn't need to have this code anymore. And so now let's go down to the hero. And so my hero, we can do the exact same thing. Let's let the hero extend the entity. And then we'll make Since we're extending the entity, just like we did with the platform, we pass the X, the Y, and the image up, and I can get rid of all of this code. Right? So, we're setting the image, and the rectangle X and Y in the entity class, and we're accessing that initializer of the entity class through the through using super here. And so what's nice is I get to go ahead and do this for all of my classes. And let's see what kind of code we can eliminate here. So we'll go down to the up, and here we see something that's actually a little bit different, right? So this one, remember we were positioning this image by its center because we realized that when we had images that didn't fill up the full 64 by 64 grid size, they were off center. And since my gem was cropped in, right, I decided to position my gem by the center instead. And so actually, I think this is the better use of code for the entity class. So I'm just going to take that and go up to the entity, and I'm going to swap that out. And so at this point, I'm deciding I'm going to position every sprite by its center rather than its upper left-hand corner. And for things like the hero and the platforms, it doesn't matter because they'll still get positioned the same because they fill up the entire area. So I think that's a better idea. And we'll go down back to the gem and just we've got our call to super and pass up the X, the Y, and the image. And our item is much simpler. And then we'll go to the enemy and same thing. Let's delete this. Oh yeah, I forgot to do entity right here. And we'll do the same thing for the enemy. Do entity. And we'll pass X, Y, and image on up to super. Right? And we've eliminated a bunch of code here. So I'm going to go ahead and run this and just confirm that everything works. And everything still seems to be behaving exactly as it did before. So, all right, looks good. So let's see if there's anything else we can do in here. So in my hero class, right, I have got this apply gravity function. And when I put my enemy on a platform, I just copied and pasted the same apply gravity into my enemy. And so I've got an enemy apply gravity here. And, I might want to put other types of objects in the game that gravity applies to as well. And I don't want to copy and paste this code. So I'm just going to cut that out up there. And I'm going to go ahead and cut it out of the hero as well. And I'm just going to paste it in the entity class. And so now the entity, right? Anything that we declare an entity can be affected by gravity. So I think that should help a lot, especially when we get into extending enemies. But I want to go just to one more place where I feel like I've got just a lot of repetitive stuff and I can reorganize and tighten things up a little bit. So this area here where I'm, adding all the entities now, we can call them, into our game. Each time I did it, I made a sprite group, I made a list of locations, and I made this loop to fill in the sprite group, and then I did it again and again and again. And I think I'm not even sure I like the way it's organized, plus we can tighten it up. So one thing we can do here is, it's like this, I have the X, and the loc is going to be the 0th value out of each position, and then the Y is going to be the first value. And when I coded it originally, I was just trying to emphasize that we are accessing elements, right, in an ordered pair here. But we can just substitute loc 0 where the X is, loc 1 where the Y is. And it does the exact same thing. And in fact, we don't need this variable P anywhere other than for the purpose of adding it into the list. So what I'm going to do is cut this out and just paste it directly into the add section. And then with my block locs, I'm going to do the same thing. So we'll just move this here, this here, cut this out. And so that's a little bit tighter. And let's see, I can do it with my items, definitely. So we'll and pull that out. Gets me some more code to get rid of. I can do it with the enemies. Like a little space there just makes it easier to read. Okay, and I can't do it with my player. Okay, so I kind of like was thinking, so well, wait, what if I went like this, and just went and put it directly in the group? But I can't do that because if you look at the controls, we are at some times during the game accessing the hero directly rather than through the group that it's in. So with the hero, we're going to have to leave it, right? We're going to have to leave it like this. Now I'm going to do a little bit more just kind of reorganizing of this. And, I don't think there's a proper way for this to be organized. I just think you should do it in a way that makes sense to you. So I am going to, let's see, I'm going to put all my sprite groups up at the top. I think my player group is the important one. I'll put it first. And I've got my platforms, my items, my enemies. Put those together. Let's see. I'll build my my board. Let's see, my grass locations, then my block locations. I'll just do all my locations now. My gem locations, my enemy locations, and then we can tighten this up. And let's see. I'm going to do my player location, like my player start. And just to be consistent with everything else, I'm going to do it as an ordered pair. So we'll do the 3, 7. And then when I make my hero, I can just say, we'll just call it start. And then I can just say start 0 and start 1. And so I think this is a little bit more of a readable, easy to modify. So this way, when we're trying to add new items to the game, we're not scrolling all over the place looking for, hey, how do we add grass? How do we add blocks? How do we add gems? It's here, and then we'll take care of putting the things in after the fact. All right, and so let me run this, double check that everything works, and make sure I can go pick up a gem. And that seems to work. Positioning of everything looks right. So I think this is a good place to stop. And I think now that we've got the code cleaned up, I think it's going to be a lot easier to jump in and deal with adding new types of items and new types of enemies. All right, so I will talk to you in the next video, and let me know if you have any questions.